Welcome back. So we are going to do now the second poem that by W.B. Yeats, and this is called "When You're Old," and you will find that it's very different from the poem that we did earlier on. It's very different from the second coming. When You Are Old was published. When You're Old was published in 1893. The poem was published in 1893. And so, as you can make out, that this is a much earlier poem. It's a much earlier poem. The Second Coming was published in 1919, and it was written in very different times. It was written after the First World War. It was written after witnessing the upheaval, the violence, the bloodshed of the war. Whereas 1893, When You're Old belongs to a collection or a set of poems written much earlier in Yeats' poetic career. And you would see that the themes are very different, the style of writing is very different. So if you compare When You're Old with the Second Coming, you can actually see his evolution as a poet. So let's go over this poem and then think about how it is different and what is there in this poem that that sets Yeats apart. What were the themes in his earlier poetry? When you are old and grey and full of sleep and nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read and dream of the soft look your eyes had once and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love false so true. But one man loved the pilgrim's soul in you, and loved the sorrows of your changing face, and bending down beside the glowing bars, murmured a little sadly how love fled, and paced upon the mountains overhead, and hid his face amid the crowd of stars. When you are old, you referring to somebody, the listener, the poem is written for somebody. Yeah. So the poem is written for a particular listener the poet wants to address. And what does a poet say to that listener? When you are old and gray and full of sleep. Sleep could be a kind of a metaphor for tiredness, fatigue, old age, nearing death. So when you're old and grey and full of sleep, nodding by the fire, sitting by the fire, take down this book. So it's kind of instructing the listener. It's an imperative voice. When you're old and grey and you're nearing death, you nod by the fire, almost asleep. Take down this book which has this poem. Take down this book. It's a reference to his own poetry, just like if you remember, Shakespeare refers to his own sonnet. As long as men can breathe, and as long as these lines live, and your beauty will live. Sorry, in Shakespeare's sonnet. So here also, it's a reference to his own work, his own poetry. And nodding by the fire, take down this book and slowly read the dream of the soft look and dream, remember, right? The past now exists only in dreams. So dream back, remember the soft look your eyes once had. So your eyes once had the look, the softness of youth, the softness of times which is now gone, and of their shadows deep. So these are the things which have not disappeared. The beauty is transient, the beauty is temporary, but you can look back, you can remember the soft look your eyes once had, and of their shadows deep. How many loved your moments of glad grace? Notice the alliteration here, glad grace. So how many men, women loved your moments? How many people loved you at that moment of your glad grace? When you were happy and graceful, many, how many loved your moments of glad grace, and loved your beauty with love false or true. So many people loved you at that time, false or true. But one man loved the pilgrim soul in you. So people might have loved your, your spirit, your grace, your beauty, but one man loved the pilgrim soul in you. Pilgrim soul. Pilgrim is almost as if, it's a reference, somebody who's on a journey, but a religious journey, going for a pilgrimage, right? So the soul that is on a pilgrimage, the soul that is on a journey towards a particular destination, a spiritual destination, right? So a soul that is journeying towards a spiritual destination. So a man who loved that pilgrim soul, that soul that was journeying towards spirituality, the man loved that aspect of you. One man loved that aspect of your personality, and loved the sorrows of your changing face. So not just glad grace, but loved the sorrows of your changing face, and bent down, and he asked again to the, I think it is the beloved again, just like Shakespeare, it's addressed to the beloved, and bending down beside the glowing bars. Remember, he's nodding by the, he or she, whosoever it is nodding by the fire. So now he asks the person to bend down beside the glowing bars, murmur a little sadly, how love fled. So murmur, remember how sad, a little sadly, with regret, with remorse, how love fled, how that love, even that deeper love, even that, more meaningful love, is transient, it flees, it's temporary, and paced upon the mountains overhead and hid his face amid the crowd of stars. The lover is no more, right? The lover does not exist anymore. The love has fled, but what remains is the memory. What remains is, the dream of the past. So this is one of Yeats's earlier poems. Now this is also, if you read critics and scholars, you will find a reference to Maud Gonne, a political activist, Maud Gonne, and she was a muse of W. B. Yeats. They had an affair, but they broke up. But she remained a source of inspiration for him. And so, according to lots of scholars and critics, his earlier poems are addressed to Maud Gonne. So here, probably it is she's referring to the Maud Gonne, the political activist, and in that sense, the pilgrim soul in you. She's a political activist. She is reaching out for certain ideals, certain political ideals, and that is what one man, probably referring to himself, that I love that idealism, I love that sense of pilgrimage, that sense of journey, that sense of idealism that was a part of your soul. If you see carefully, there is a rhyme pattern here. What is a rhyme pattern? Sleep and deep here, look and book. So it is ABBA. ABBA. So the rhyme pattern is there. It is written in iambic pentameter again. When you are old and gray and full of sleep, right? So when you are old and gray and full of sleep. So here is a stress, here is a stress, here is a stress, stress and stress. This is the unstressed side. So if you see 5 meters, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, it is iambic pentameter, and nodding by the fire, take down this book. So it is written in iambic pentameter. There is a rhyme pattern, there is a rhythm to the poem. It is a poem about unrequited love, love that does not last, love even that is as deep as the poet, it would not last. The beauty does not last. The youth that does not last. Uh, Here he's personifying love, how love fled. So love fled, and now it paces on the mountains overhead and has hidden his face among the crowd of stars. So love is there. It is there in the skies. It's there on the height, but not really. It does not really last. It's not permanent. Nothing is permanent. So compare this to Second Coming, and you would see the difference. Here is it's a little cliched theme of love, beauty, youth. We see it often in poetry how times change, beauty fades, youth fades, memories stay, and in the old age, there is a sense of nostalgia and remembrance. It is written in iambic pentameter. It is written with a proper rhyme scheme, A, B, B, A, a very simple kind of rhyme scheme. So as you can see here, this is early Yeats, and the complexity that comes in the Second Coming. It's a stark contrast between there's a stark contrast between the two poems. Yeats of 1893 and Yeats of 1919 are vastly different.